struggled with pronunciation. The politicians fell out over how to spell Concorde. Should it be spelt the French way, with an E on the end, or the English way, without?
The British said, we're taking the E off. So I didn't consult anybody, but I simply said, we're going to put it back again. And it did actually hit the headlines that we were going to do that. And I said it stands for England, for the Entente Cordiale, for excellence. And some Treasury officials said, yes, an E for escalation of the extra cost.
For the engineers, the bigger question was how to generate the enormous thrust it would take to push Concorde through the sound barrier. Olympus engines from Britain's nuclear Vulcan bombers were re-engineered. Concorde had 4, producing the equivalent thrust of 6,000 cars. But there was a major problem. Jet engines can't take in air traveling at supersonic speeds. Intakes had to be devised that would slow the air down before it entered the engine.
The challenge of the air intake with Concorde was a massive challenge. It was absolutely incredible what this intake could do. It was using computer power that technically wasn't even around.
The computers controlled flaps that slowed the air down by 1,000 miles an hour in just 14 feet.
Groundbreaking stuff. Absolutely groundbreaking. Nobody else in the whole wide world had done it, and we did it.
No aircraft in history ever underwent such testing and development. But the question remained, would it work? Concorde still had to fly faster than the speed of sound. The race for supersonic flight was on. Now, test pilot André Turcat was ready to take the French Concorde past Mach 1, the speed of sound. This was the most dangerous part of the test program. It would push the aircraft to its limits.
There was no nervousness. If you're nervous in a situation like this, you should change your job. You must never be nervous, always calm.
Inside, a flying laboratory was ready to record every jolt and twitch of Concorde's airframe.
1, 2, 3, top!
Afterburners, usually reserved for fighter jets, kick-started Concorde on its roll to over 250 miles an hour, faster than a Formula One racing car. Concorde's distinctive visor was raised to shape the fuselage into a rocket. As the Concorde approached Mach 1, Turcat offered the glory of breaking the sound barrier to his co-pilot, Jean Pinet.
I said to him, well, now you take it to Mach 1. He was really happy. And it was him who took the first flight to Mach 1.
There was almost no sensation of traveling faster than the speed of sound. The smoothness of the flight was largely due to a startling innovation: fly-by-wire. Pilots had relied on mechanical linkages to move the flaps and rudders. Now, computers analyzed and relayed Turcat's commands to the control surfaces. On following flights, Turcat pushed the aircraft on to its limit, over twice the speed of sound, and held it there in continuous supersonic flight. A feat no aircraft had ever achieved before.
les choses qui commençaient à chauffer, à vrai dire.
Things did begin to warm up. The air conditioning was not fully working, and the oil got hot. But we stayed there for 52 minutes, at Mach 2, while the American prototype, the US model, was still stuck on the ground. So we were really the first.
On a vraiment été là les premiers.
Technically, it was a massive leap. I mean, only now, 40 years after the first flight, are things that Concorde had really becoming the norm. The brakes, the fly-by-wire flying controls, some of the systems, the engine control systems. It really was a massive challenge.
Mr. Wedgwood Ben, Minister of Technology, and Monsieur Jean Chamon, French Minister of Transport, were ready to cut the tapes and launch the greatest airliner ever built.
Concorde looked ready to take the world by storm. 16 major airlines placed options for a staggering 74 aircraft. No one wanted to be seen without a Concorde. But the airliner of the future had come at an incredible cost to the French and British taxpayers.
The escalation was on a massive scale. I mean, it cost far more than the company had anticipated. But once you start something like this, you can't pull out.
The project, initially budgeted at £150 million, ended up costing £1.5 billion of taxpayers' money. It was a price the US was not prepared to pay. Boeing scrapped their supersonic rival. The ambitious swept-wing design got no further than an expensive wooden mock-up, costing almost as much as the finished Concorde. It did give the world in-flight entertainment. But Wall Street wasn't prepared to fund it.
Wall Street is not worried about national pride, they're only worried about making money. And when they looked at the numbers for supersonic transport, the numbers just didn't make sense to them.
Wall Street had decided to put its money into another Boeing aircraft. The Jumbo. This was aircraft manufacture on a shipbuilding scale. It wouldn't even go half as fast as Concorde, but it could take over 4 times the number of passengers at a fraction of the cost. Now Concorde was in a new race of speed versus size. To drum up more sales, a Concorde prototype left England to go on a 46,000-mile world sales tour. Flying the flag for Britain was Conservative Aerospace Minister and nervous flyer, Michael Heseltine.
I'd always been rather apprehensive of flying, and so being told that I was going in a prototype but hadn't got a certificate of airworthiness, something like that, was pretty appalling as a concept. And then we set off down this runway. The only reassuring thing for me was that the British Aerospace employees who were there just went to sleep. So I thought, well, they must know something I don't.
Crowds flocked to see the new wonder of the age. But when Concorde arrived in Sydney, the reception wasn't so warm. Protesters had come to demonstrate about Concorde's noise and pollution.
In real terms, the Concorde was a noisy aircraft.
But it wasn't just noise. Environmentalists warned that Concorde's engines would pollute the atmosphere, unleashing disasters from melting ice caps to freezing cold winters. These apocalyptic scenarios proved wildly exaggerated. But Concorde did have one nasty little habit. Its sonic boom.
When